spreading all the talk about Pullela Gopichand being a gentleman and a real nice guy. Nice guys respect the opinion of wise. They stand in difference in attention. When elders speak, they listen. Gopichand clearly doesn't. If he had listened when he was just another bright junior, he could have been in Silicon Valley now, writing code. But no, he chose a sport which once produced champions for India, but during his school days only provided entertainment at family picnics for huffing and puffing uncles and aunties. No future in badminton, he was told. So he won the National Junior Championship. An on-court accident took him out of the game for 10 months, and then he was reminded constantly that he would never come back the same. So within 3 years, he became the senior national champion. Gopichand went to Prakash Padukone, asked if he could walk his footsteps and work to climb up the international rankings. He took India to the Thomas Cup finals for the first time in 12 years, beat top 10 players, reached semi-finals and finals abroad, and shot up the world rankings from number 38 to number 6 in just over a year. The All England Championship is to badminton what Wimbledon is to tennis. The oldest of the majors, the most sought after, the most venerated trophy. There are other richer and shinier events, but All England is the holy grail. When Padukone won it in 1980, he spun off a mini mania. It kept big stars coming to India, crowds flocking to matches until the mid-1980s. Now, an old-fashioned and unmistakably Indian name once again drew British Asians from across the UK to Birmingham at £40 a ticket. With a 9-member contingent of shrill teammates, 2 coaches who looked ready to explode with worry and delight, and a good number of Europeans to backing him up, Gopichand stepped into history, threw up his arms, threw back his head, and breathed the rare air that only Padukone had before him. Then finally he listened to the one sound that most Indian athletes, fringe actors on a stage dominated by a gaudy body pantomime called cricket, hardly get to hear. A full-throated chorus of appreciation and acceptance. On the unreal Sunday, television crews walked in and out of his parents' living room like it was their own. One asked Gopi's father, a banker trying to handle his 15 minutes of fame, what plans the family had to welcome their son. The father paused and replied in the gentlest of voices, what to plan, he's an ordinary man. With the greatest possible respect, it must be said, he is not. Pullela Gopichand is a hero. That was Sharda Ogra in 2001. It's over 10 years, he won the All England Championship, and in the last 10 years, he's produced world-class badminton players from India. May I now request Pullela Gopichand to talk to us through his journey and the importance of young athletes remaining focused.
Thanks, Sai Sudha, and a very good afternoon to you all. And thanks for those words. In fact, I remember a long time back, and I was always thinking, and I told Sharda also that this is probably maybe the only article which actually put it in perspective in the real way, which I thought. When I hear out of it now, the All England as a victory, I see it very differently. It almost seems as though another person has won it some time, and we're talking about somebody else. So much has changed over the years, and it seems as a very, very long time for me, because the last 10 years have been very eventful, and I've lived it so well or passionately that I forgot about the previous past. It almost looks as though the player was a distant a dream for me, or it just happened. Well, something which came up in this is, in the article, and the first words which were written by Sharda was, who says is a nice boy, or who says is a gentleman. And well, in a lot of ways, a lot of the times, it is that little thing that I have to prove myself which had driven me for a long time. Sometimes it was encouragement, sometimes it was criticism. Sometimes when somebody said you could do it, I would push myself. Somebody I would say you couldn't do it, I would push myself. Somebody would say you're successful, I would push myself. And somebody who said I was a failure, I would push myself. Very early in my career, as the article mentioned about this injury which I had when I was 18, it put things in perspective for me about what I really wanted in my life. A lot of the times, with many of the things we have, we don't realize the importance of things when we have them with us. So when at 18, when I was away from the sport, that is when I realized what I really wanted in my life. Many a times people have asked me, had it not been, because it was an ACL tear, as the orthopedic here or the sports medicine expert here would know, is a big injury. Back in '94, the rehab wasn't great, the surgeries were pretty ordinary, and as a sport which was very physical and who had no previous instance of players coming back from such an injury playing high level badminton again. So it was a challenge that when I was 18 years old, I had this injury, and I wasn't sure whether I'll be playing sport in my life again. And many people had asked me then, in the sense of later in my life, the point which I missed is, they really asked me, would you have been a better player had not been for the injury? People have asked me this, and since you would have been so good, if not for that one injury, you would have gained 6 years or 5 years, because I came back from that injury in '94, and I got my knee hurt again with a meniscus tear in '96, went back with another injury in '98 and had another operation. So almost 3 surgeries back to back between '94, '96 and '98. And then I had this good period of 3 years, and then 2001 is where I had done a surgery on my right knee, the other knee, because I overcompensated for years, and my right knee got an overuse injury. So that is how eventually I had to stop. But a lot of people had asked me that had it not been for these injuries, you would have probably become a much better player. And I would just laugh off and say, maybe. But honestly, I think because of these injuries, I was what I was. Because each injury made me stronger. Each injury made me like the sport more and more. The more I kept away from sport, the more I loved it. And that is what is important. That I just love to play, and I love to compete. And if I didn't play for 10 months, I just was dreaming for 10 months. The next time I was not played for 3 months, I was dreaming for 3 months. And the dream. I was just lying down in bed and I was dreaming. Nothing else, because nothing else we had in our country was good enough at that point of time to be world class. Neither the knowledge was, neither the facility was. Nothing was. But this dream went on and on and on, and I just kept dreaming. I would sit down, and I remember Mom sir having told me that if you visualize something, it will happen. And I believed it totally, that I'm going to visualize, I'm going to win, and that's the only thing I'm going to do. I would lie down in bed, close my eyes, and think I'm lifting that trophy. I was lifting that trophy. And I would get injured again, and the next day again, instead of practicing, I'm dreaming. And if I was okay, I would go and practice. If I was not okay, if my knee was hurting, and I would go back and dream again. That's all I did for years. And eventually, years later, after all those surgeries, it came one fine morning that I woke up and I was an All England champion. I was lucky, I would say, to win the All England. Honestly, I didn't win many. Today, a lot of players have won many titles. I didn't, in my career, win a ton of titles, but I won something which I dreamt of. And in that reason, I say I was lucky. It reminds me of the book Alchemist, and where he writes that if you dream of something more, then the universe conspires to help you, and that is called luck. And for me, that was the only thing which happened. When I started off as a kid just because we lived close to the stadium. I started playing. My mother thought, not my idea at all, my mother thought that instead of playing in the sun, it's good he goes to the stadium and plays, because he will break less window panes, because we were playing cricket and I would break a lot of window panes and get sunstroke every summer. So she said, why don't you go and play something indoors? There was nothing beyond that for me playing. At that point of time when I started off, for me the biggest players were the two players, Ayaz and Jamshed, who were the district champions then. And if I would reach their level, they were the biggest players. I didn't know who Prakash sir was. I had no clue of the All England, nothing. Years later, for me, at that time I would get up in the morning and I had these friends, Naeem, Fareed, Azam and myself. So four of us started off in the same summer camp. So I would go there and I would practice. And then the next day morning I would think, I will practice a little harder because I have to win against these people. So if they came at 6 in the morning, I came at 5:30 in the morning. And if they came at 5:30, I would sneak in another 20 minutes before. And soon I realized that all through my life, if I were to look at it, it was as simple as that. For years, I just would think, if my opponents are training at 6, I will train at 5:30. If my Chinese are training later, it became that Andhra back then, if you look at years ago, this was like 85, 86, was never a great badminton state at all. We hardly had any results come by. We hardly had any results. Our only national champion in the seniors came about in 94. I was the first men's champion from the state. But before 95, there was nobody who had reached probably a quarterfinals of the senior nationals. So the entire team would go there, go to the nationals. First round we are packed, carry bags, come back again, and then we would be like all of us looking at the other matches. So we had no history or nothing to dream for that. So the only thing which I was like, I'll win the state championship. Then I went to the nationals and I beat these 4 guys, and I went to the nationals and I realized there were another 4 guys at the national level who were there. Now the only thing different was they were from 4 different states and they were not in front of my eyes. So it made things a little more harder, because I would think at 5:30 that they're already training at 5:30. So I would go there and train at 5 o'clock. So it made things a little different. And I went on to win the nationals. That is how it happened. And I kept training, and a few years later in 91, I won the junior nationals and got my first opportunity to play international. I played the Malaysian Open. When there, we had a long qualifying draw for 5 rounds. Won the qualifying, was in a 19-member team. That was actually the first time we had a decently big contingent go out to play. We played the match. I came back to the room, and it's like a big room, not small room in a hotel in Kuala Lumpur. And we had all the players sitting, and I was the junior most of them. I was 18 then, and I was the youngest of the group. And I, with all my boyish enthusiasm, I said, I'm going to beat the Chinese, and next time I'm going to win. And everybody laughed at me big time. This is बड़ा आया बोलने वाला, हम इतने साल से कर रहे हैं और नहीं कर पाए, ये बड़ा है, ज़्यादा उचक रहा है, चुपचाप बैठ, ठीक हो जाएगा एक साल में. And I just couldn't oppose them, so I walked off. But I kept that desire with me. If today I were to pick one moment which changed things in my life, it was that one moment. I kept the desire, I didn't fight, but I ensured that I had the same kind of people around me, or the people who would either protect it, or whenever I would have people like that criticizing, I walked out. And that, if that purity of thought, what I kept, in spite of people saying negative things around me, is one thing which I really am proud about. It's not my physical ability, nothing which I am, but just that positiveness which has kept me alive. I remember same thing happened, and I would always tell my juniors years later, this was around 96, 97, and I was the champion of the country. I would win these tournaments across the country. I would always be winning Indian national tournaments from 95 till 2001. I was always winning these tournaments. So 95, 96, 97, I won, and then around 98 end about then, suddenly there was a moment when few of the juniors ganged up and said, I think you're fooling us. We'll never be able to beat them, and you're just making it up because we've seen the top players in the world and we'll never beat them. They came up and said this to me. We were sitting in another room of 6 or 7 people, and one of them said it and 2 of them seconded the thought. And the next day I packed my bags and moved to Sai. And that is what I'm really proud of. Because I made a choice that if I play, I'm played with that positive attitude. Even if I lose, I'm going to lose challenging that. And the day I'm going to feel that I'm in that negative frame, I will drop off. I will probably not play or something, but I will not accept the fact that I'm playing and not able to be the best in the world. If I'm going to pray to the guy whom I'm going to play against, or think that he is God and play against him, how am I going to beat him? So I said it's not going to happen, and that is how I went off. I didn't win many international events, so there was a lot of disappointments, but this positiveness is what really helped me. I would get up in the morning. If I'm good to play, I play. I practiced hard. If I couldn't, I would visualize. I practiced hard. I remember I was mad in a few ways that I would be doing something which I believed 100%. And today, if I were to look at my entire career, I have been hardworking. Yes, there are a lot of people who've been hardworking, but also one of the facts which I'm good at is when I did something, I did it 100%. I've tried everything possible what I knew in my life, whether it's technically, whether it's diet, whether it's psychology, whether it's food, thought, anything in the sense, just to give a couple of examples, I remember once that one of the doctors, and he told me that if you walk a lot, it cuts into your mileage of your knee, so that I would just eat and sleep and play, that's it. I wouldn't walk any more than necessary, because I thought if I walk 100 meters, then it'll hurt me when I was playing. And I did it religiously for a long, long time. People thought I was mad. Today, if I think scientifically, I'm mad. But it's not anything but that thought in your mind which is important. The thought to keep on improving is what is important. For many of us here, we all practice hard, but do we dream about what we want to become every minute of our day? Do we do that? Is important. Maybe it may not help you in any way, but that effort itself will make you better. And that is what is important. The effort is what is important. To continuously think of improvement when you're eating, when you're sleeping, when you're waking up, walking, when you're outside. Everything of those small things make it what you are. There might be champions who have done it in different ways. Nothing but, nothing taking away. But this is the way I was able to do it. I was lucky, but with a reason, that I was positive and I was fearless. I moved when I thought it was necessary, and some of the decisions were really strange. But never did I complain of something which had happened in the past. I would never think that the injury happened and it's my bad luck. Not a day in my life did that thought come to me that it's my fate, what bad luck. No, this is what it is, what next? If my knee was injured, I was happy that the rest of my body I could train something, so I would improve my wrist. If my wrist was hurting, if my whole body was hurting, then I could lie down in bed and visualize, and that was good. So all of these things really helped me. And for you all, you're young, you need to, you have chosen this field. It's important that you don't complain. Take things the way they are. I remember when I moved to Sai and we were training for the All England. A lot of the times I see players would say, no good facilities, no good sparring, no good coach, no good equipment. But then none of it can stop if your dream is strong enough. And I was lucky, and we can all be lucky. It's how much of energy we put into our thought, our dream, and it will come, but it will not come without the big failure. It will come with big failure and another failure and another failure. And if you keep going that dream on after those defeats, and you get up the next day morning and say, I am going to be even better. I remember matches when I would finish match and in 20 minutes I was angry and I would be training. And I would be training hard till I was dead. And then when I was winning and the next day morning, I remember we finished the All England. And one day later I came back, and in Delhi I was running because I was worried that I would lose the next match after the All England. I was married, and I got married, and the next day was the only day I had an off because there was a puja that day. And the day after I was back. So I was mad, yes, but if the madness gives you an All England title, it's worth it. It's really worth it. And for all of us, I think it's that dream. You have to keep the dream alive all the time, which is very important. And at the end of the day, I've won some, lost many, but I'm at least proud and happy that I've lived the life really the way I wanted to. I've tried everything possible in my life as a player, and it's the attitude which makes you a success. And you don't have to shout at people when they criticize. You have to answer them back softly but strongly, and the racket does the talking, is what I would say. Yeah, this is my journey as a player and my experience in a large ways.